Hey everybody, I'm Robert Donovan, and well, it's April. It's almost over, as a matter of fact. And with the coming of April, not only has tax season hit the United States, but XP has been expired and retired by Microsoft. It no longer exists as far as the folks in Redmond are concerned. Well, the XP user then is left with a bit of a conundrum, something to the tune of, where do we go from here? In this episode, I am going to commence the full-on First Linux course updated version for 2014. And I think you'll find that Linux, particularly a modern Linux version, can be quite newbie-friendly and very, very useful for older hardware or for people who do not wish to go out and spend a lot of money on an operating system that they do not like, such as Windows 8. So that's all coming up next on this episode of Tradecraft Solutions. Okay, folks, let's get this party started here. We are going to be looking at how to get Linux installed onto your Windows system. This course is aimed at current XP users who are looking for an alternative to upgrading to Windows 8. And this course is going to teach you all about how to use Linux, and we're going to show you that Linux hopefully is not user-unfriendly as its reputation would suggest. So, if you're running Windows XP and you don't have an extra physical machine to install Linux onto, you can use a program like this called VirtualBox to create virtual machines and then install Linux onto the virtual machine. In order to do that, you need to get VirtualBox, and you're looking at the website for that here. And if you click on the Downloads link over here on this side, that'll take you to the Downloads page. And if you're running Windows, you need to get the VirtualBox hosts for the VirtualBox for here. You want to get the VirtualBox for Windows, and it's a .exe file. If you click on this link here, it takes you to the dialog box for the win.exe, and just save the file to your Downloads folder or any place else you want to save it. But if you save it someplace other than Downloads, know where it is, because I'm assuming you're saving to the Downloads folder in Windows just for the sake of uniformity and ease of discussion. So I've already downloaded this, so I'm going to cancel that. The next thing you want to get is the VirtualBox extensions pack, so just click on that link, do the same thing again. I've already downloaded that as well. And the last thing you want to get is the VirtualBox Guest Editions ISO image, which I usually just go to the VirtualBox software repository, which is download.virtualbox.org. All the links that I'm talking about in this video are going to be in the show notes, so don't be scrambling to try and write them down or manically pressing pause. So what you want to do is scroll down here, click on the version of VirtualBox that you have downloaded, and that will get you to the software for that particular version of VirtualBox. We've already downloaded the extensions pack here from the other page, and now we want to get the VirtualBox or VBox Guest Editions ISO as well. And that ISO is downloaded the exact same way, and I've already downloaded it, so we're going to cancel that. So once you have VirtualBox downloaded, the next step is to install it into Windows. Now on my system, I am running Linux as my primary host operating system, and I'm running Windows as a virtual machine, also known as a guest operating system. So to install VirtualBox on Windows, you simply go to your Downloads folder, or whichever folder you have installed or downloaded VirtualBox to, and as soon as this thing opens up here, we will get to my network connections, and I have this thing on a shared folder shared on the network between the two virtual machines, which is why, and as I'm running a screencast, is going a little slower than it normally does. But as soon as we get the network set up here, there we go, we will click on this and click there. Now if we scroll down, you'll see that I have virtualbox.exe, and all you have to do is double-click this thing, and this is a straight click next till you're done, or click run till you're done installation. So just keep clicking run, yes, continue, install, or whatever means continue forward until the thing says finished, So I've already done that, so I'm going to cancel that, and when you finally get VirtualBox installed, it's going to look like this. So now I am going to get out of this because I am going to use the VirtualBox instance that I have installed under Linux. So if I go down here and open up my VirtualBox console here, I am now looking at the VirtualBox instance I have under Linux. I am running Windows as a virtual machine, so I created a Windows virtual machine and installed Windows 7 onto it. And this is the virtual machine I'm going to show you how to create now. This is called Korora Linux. I'm going to go ahead and remove it, delete all the files, so we're starting over, and I'm going to show you how to create your own Korora Linux virtual machine. Korora is the name of the Linux distribution that we're going to be starting with in this course. We're also going to be looking at Linux Mint and Manjaro Linux in this course, but we're starting with Korora because it requires the least rewriting of the course material to update the course from the old version I did a couple of years ago. So yes, I'm lazy. Anyway, to get this going, you need to click New, and that will get you the first dialog box here. We're going to give it a name. It's Korora Linux, and I am going to make it the Fedora 64-bit because Korora Linux is based on the Fedora distribution. That's why I picked it. And then we're going to click Next. This is asking how much RAM, that is physical memory, we want to assign to this new virtual machine. 768 megabytes is fine. I don't have that much RAM on this particular laptop that I'm using to do this video. If you have more RAM, you can use more memory for the virtual machine, but you'll see this colored bar under here. It's got green, yellow, and red. Stay in the green, because if you go above the green and into the yellow and red, you're putting so much memory to the virtual machine that the physical machine starts not having enough memory to run correctly, and that can cause the machine to run very slowly, and it can cause freezes and crashes, particularly in the virtual machine. And so there you have that warning. So click Next. And the next thing we need to do is create a virtual hard drive. Now, that's just the default is to create a hard drive now, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to create a VirtualBox disk image. Later on, after we've covered the basics in this course of Linux and of virtual machines, I'm going to do some future videos on the various advantages and disadvantages to the other hard drive file types you can create in VirtualBox. This is a very versatile program. It's really, really neat, some of the stuff you can do with this, but we're going to get into that later on. For now, stick with the defaults and click Next. All right, so now it's asking us, do we want the space on our virtual hard drive to be allocated dynamically? That means it'll adjust the size of the drive based on how much software we install to the Linux virtual machine, or if we just create a straight fixed size. The dynamically allocated drive, let's say we assign 64 gigabytes of hard drive space to this virtual machine. And then we installed Korora, and we found out that the total installation was only 3 or 4 gigabytes. Well, the dynamically allocated drive would only use the 4 gigabytes of space that we used for this installation. It could expand up to 64 gigabytes, but it wouldn't use any more than we actually needed, which frees up some hard drive space. Now, the fixed size drive will be straight 64 gigabits, and it will use 64 gigabits whether we need it or not. And as it says here, on some systems, a fixed size drive is often faster to use. My experience on modern computers has been that there's really not that big a difference. So I'm going to go and stick with dynamically allocated and click Next. And as I said, I'm going to go with 64 gigabits. These don't need, for just experimenting with Linux, you don't need a huge hard drive. In fact, one of the things I often do is I take a USB external drive and I actually install my virtual machines to that external drive. But for this case, I'm just going to use the one that's on my system and create a 64 gigabit virtual hard drive. Once I click Create, I now have created a Korora virtual machine. Now, if I were to turn this virtual machine on, the way I do that, by the way, is by either double-clicking this Korora entry that's highlighted here, or I could click the Start button here. Once I click the Start button, then the machine will start. But because what we've done here with the virtual machine is the equivalent of going out and buying a new PC with a blank, unformatted hard drive and no operating system installed, it won't do anything except give us an error saying I can't find an operating system. So with that in mind, we now need to go get Korora Linux. And we do that by going to the Korora Linux website called KororaProject.org. And the KororaProject.org website looks like that. And to get Korora, you just click on the download link here, and that takes you to the download page. And you have a choice of desktop environments in Korora. Unlike Windows, which forces you to have the desktop experience that Microsoft dictates you shall have, as I'm sure we're all wishing didn't happen with the Metro interface in Windows 8, in Linux you have a choice of different desktop environments to suit your taste. And Korora gives you a choice of 5 in this case, and we're going to use KDE. Now, KDE is a little bit more resource intensive than some of these others, but it's the one I use the most and the one I really like the best. So we're going to go with that one. So click KDE over here. You'll see that the thing, whichever one is selected is highlighted. And then click this download link here to download via HTTP or via the BitTorrent. And once you do that, then you will have Korora, this Korora 20, which is currently the latest version thereof. So that's a pretty big download. If you want, you can also download the other 2 ISOs for the other 2 Linux distributions we're going to look at in this course. That would be Linux Mint right here, and we're going to get the KDE version of that. And if you click on that link there, it takes you to the Linux Mint blog. And if you scroll down here, you'll see these are the mirrors for the 32-bit version. And you'll see we have USA. For me, I'd be choosing USA. If you're somewhere else, pick the one geographically closest to you. And this is the stuff for the 64-bit ISO. The other version of Linux that we're going to be using in this course is called Manjaro Linux. It is based on the Arch Linux distribution, and it is the one that I am probably going to be switching to as my daily use Linux distribution as soon as Linux Mint 16, which is the one I'm using now, expires. And I am really blown away by Manjaro. It is a rolling release version of Linux, and what that means is that if you keep all your packages up to date, you have the latest version of the operating system. There is no snapshot version. There is no major version released. They do snapshots periodically, so you're not constantly updating everything all the time. But Manjaro is really, really good. I am just, since it has come out, I have been watching it, and it has just grown and matured and done marvelous things. I am blown away by it. We're going to be covering that one last because it's user-friendly, but it's user-friendly if you're kind of already a computer power user. So before we get to that one, we're going to mess with Korora, then we're going to mess with Linux Mint, and then we're going to get into Manjaro. So you'll be a little more comfortable in Linux before we tackle this one, because it's definitely the more technically oriented while still user-friendly. So those are the 3 Linux distributions we're going to be covering. That is how you get VirtualBox, install it, and create a virtual machine. And when you finish, we're going to stop this video here. When you finish downloading the ISO files, our next video is going to cover how to take that ISO file and install it either to a virtual machine or to physical hardware. So thanks everyone for watching, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day.